Alright, so I don't know if this is going to be like a regular thing I do, but um, I watched this play a couple weeks ago with a family, and to say that it had an impact on me personally is a little bit of another statement. Um, and I'll get more into that a little bit later. But you know, Dio Van Hansen, I watched it, and I think it reached parts of me that I don't usually like to talk about. Um, and so I didn't really talk about it. I mean, I talked about it like with my wife personally, but like other people, I haven't really talked to about it, and it just kind of got me thinking about ways I could, and why the play I believe matters, why it matters to me, and sharing its I guess impact on me with you, and I think that would be kind of important. So I sat on that idea for a couple weeks since I watched it, and it took me took a little courage for me to do this and have this interaction with you. Again, not something I usually do. Um, so it's my first time doing something like this. Might be a little chaotic. Don't know how it's going to come off, um, but you're going to deal with it. So let's talk about this as I try to follow the script so I stay on point. So Dio Evan Hansen, if you don't know, is I guess it's a broadway play. The version I watched was something that the locals in the community ended up doing at the community center at Rehoboth Beach. Great performance, by the way. Everybody that was involved. But Dio Evan Hansen is a stage play about a boy who struggles with depression, and part of his therapy is he needs to write, like he writes himself notes in the third person, like Dio Evan Hansen, today is going to be a good day, and here's why. Um, that's important for stuff down the road. So as he tries to write these notes, it's revealed he has kind of a difficult relationship with his mother. His actually can't quite remember about his father, but his mother basically is overworked, and he's kind of by himself, and he needs to find his way through it. And part of it is writing these notes in the third person, Dio Evan Hansen, today is going to be a good day. So what this leads to is he writes a note like this, and a stranger in the library in his school finds it. The stranger is he's just kind of a weirdo. I don't really know the best way to describe it. People are kind of scared of him. He finds this note and he takes it from Evan. But I think he also, I'm trying to get the order of operations down. He also signs Evan's casts, which he wears throughout the entirety of the play, because Evan at the time was trying to get people to sign his cast because he wants to convince his mother he has friends. So the stranger signs the cast and then takes the note. And then later on, that stranger ends up committing suicide. The parents of this guy find this note, but of course the note's in third person, so it says Theo Evan Hansen, So obviously the parents believe that their son, who killed himself, wrote this note for Evan, which leads to Evan inventing a role in which he actually knew this stranger and was friends with this guy, even though nobody else, was friends with him. And you can make the case that his own family wasn't even really friends with him. Nobody knew this guy. He was just kind of a strange dude. But Evan creates this role for himself in which he's important specifically to this family, which kicks off the entirety of the play, which I don't really want to spoil, because the play itself is actually really good, and there's a lot of ups and downs and plot twists. I may end up spoiling some of it because I want to talk about why it matters to me, which is probably going to get into some of the nuts and bolts of what happens in the play. Um, but this is kind of a general synopsis of what it's about. Uh, and I think as I watched this play, it really began to resonate with me in some pretty crazy ways. But before I get into that, um, I think I think I'll just kind of talk about why it matters, because I think it matters to a lot of people because suicide itself is a really sensitive topic that reaches people in ways they don't quite think of. I don't think I know anybody in my life personally whose life was not affected by suicide. Um, and I don't really want to quite get into the details of everybody else's business and about why it matters to them, but personally, it matters to me. My own stepfather, when I was growing up, took his own life. I wasn't really close with him, but you know, my stepbrothers and my stepfamily and stuff, obviously that was really, really important to them. Um, Important in some bad reasons, I guess, if you want to, describe it like that. But that's just what it means, from next turn to fourth. So just that situation alone already impacts me. Um, so I imagine it probably has some sort of impact on you. And I think it might not be the most pleasant experience to watch it, but Evan Hansen, or Dear Evan Hansen, I think will resonate a lot with people, and I think it has, and I think that's why a lot of people like it. Me personally, to say I liked it, and then to go into why, to go into its impact on me and say I liked it, it's going to come off weird. Because I remember I got probably 15 minutes into watching this play, and for 2.5 hour play, that's not the right way to get it started off, because I'm watching this play and I start having a panic attack as I'm watching this play. I don't know if it was a panic attack, anxiety attack, something like that. Like, I had, like, chest pains, I felt difficulties breathing, I had difficulties breathing, I should say. I felt really cold, and the weirdest thing about it was my fingertips became like numb. It's like when you go outside and you're outside in the cold for very long and your body's warmth retreats into itself. It's like I'm in like a blizzard, and it's like forcing my spirit to consolidate like inside of my chest. That's how I like described it. Obviously I'm okay. My wife knew about it in real time, and my wife's like one of the most important. Obviously, she's like the most important in my life, but she's just a really good person overall. Especially with talking about your feelings. So she knew about it in real time. She picked up on it. I talked to her about it, especially at the intermission, which was very helpful. And then I was able to watch the second half of the play, and I didn't quite feel as bad. I felt better as the play got on, because the play kind of picked up steam, and I kind of forgot about my own troubles, I guess. I think the reason it felt so painful for me to watch it at first was there's a lot of similarities to Dear Evan Hansen in my life, and it's really bizarre to watch all of these similarities happen on stage, because then it's like I felt like I was on stage and everybody's watching a play about my life, and then I felt really uncomfortable, and then it led to my anxiety attack, which point made it through it, and I was able to watch the rest of the play. Again, that's going to sound really strange to say all of that and then say the play was good, because it's sort of a contradiction. Like, I guess I'll get into the similarities and why it was really, really weird to watch it, like, happen. Like, first off, I remember watching this play, and then at the intermission, my father-in-law, who was in attendance with us, because I went with my wife and our parents, was like, man, that guy, that kid Evan Hansen, he really reminds me of Junior, and he kind of put his arm on me, and I was like, yeah, I don't like that. Because Evan Hansen, first off, the actor kind of looked like me, which is really weird. Obviously, that's not going to be the case with every adaptation of the play, but Evan White, and a lot of people who know me know that I also like to write. I write books. I get a website for it. Just scroll down and buy some. Link in the description. So he writes, which is kind of weird. The intro song, like probably the most well-known song I would think from the play, because it's a musical. The most well-known song from it is "Waving Through a Window." Just to kind of give you a short synopsis of that, like it's like you're watching people living their lives through a window. Like I'm like imagine this is the window of the screen, and I'm watching you, and I want to be a part of what you guys have going on, like the rest of the world. But there's like this pane of glass that's between me and the rest of the world, or in this case, between Evan and the rest of the world. When I watch that, personally, it reminds me a lot of when I was writing my books, especially when I graduated high school and I really got into writing books. Because I used to go to Barnes& and Nobles a lot, because the Barnes& and Nobles I used to go to had a cafe built into it, had a Starbucks, I believe. So I used to sit at the Starbucks and just write and write and write. And I used to always sit by the window. I used to look out the window, and I used to think, how come I'm in here writing books? How come I can't have friends and connect with people? How come I'm not out there? So all the way, I think that was when I knew the play was going to be really hard for me to sit through, because Evan Hansen and myself are very, very similar. Because Evan struggles with his depression, which you find out beforehand. I struggled with my own depression, especially when I was a teenager, before I kind of matured a little bit. And depression itself is just something that's always kind of followed me. It's really difficult to talk about because you could say you can have depression, but then everybody says, "Oh, but your life's great," you know. And even back then, when I was a teenager, when I couldn't quite see how good my life was, it kind of felt like the same. Oh, but your life's great. How can you feel? You know what I mean? And it kind of goes into like the suicide topic where you try to talk about suicide with people, or like if you yourself are suicidal and you try to talk about it with someone, it's like the same. Well, I'm your friend. You're not good enough to you know what I mean? I'm not good enough for you. I'm not a good enough friend. I'm not a good enough parent. I'm not a good enough support system. Like, at least in my life, that's how it kind of came off. Trying to talk about it with people. And then as I got older, you realize that a lot of people kind of feel the same way that you do. Not that everybody feels the same, but you connect with people in different ways. I think once everybody kind of grows up and you realize it's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to talk about, stuff that's happened to you. It's okay to talk about bad stuff that's happened to you. Even though things are going good now, it's okay to talk about stuff that's bad. And I didn't quite know how to talk about the stuff that was bad in my life at the time. It really manifested itself into, I would say it manifested itself into unchecked anger. It made being my friend difficult. It made loving me very difficult. It's so weird watching Evan Hansen's character and then thinking back to how I used to be. I got my buddy back, yo. He's actually my editor. So, okay, so, even going into the similarities, like how Evan Hansen has the broken arm. I don't really want to spoil it, but I have to talk about it. So, Evan Hansen, you find out, the reason he broke his arm in the first place was he himself tried to commit suicide, and trying to find a polite way to say it. I think he botches it, and then he tries to I guess he tries to jump from a tree and hope the fall kills him, and he ends up breaking his arm. I don't know if he tries to hang himself and the rope broke. I guess that's up to interpretation. Basically, he tries to hurt himself, and he ends up hurting himself. And it's really, really weird, because at the beginning, everybody makes fun of him. Like, oh, you fell out of a tree. That's what people think. Oh, you just fell out, climbing a tree. And it's it's really, really painful for me to watch this, because I remember when I was a junior in high school, I had a anxiety attack my first day of school. My mom, God bless her heart, had so much going on, but she still tries to help me and talk to me. So the second day of school, she says just take the day off and, get yourself, situated. I go back to school the third day, and I remember my teacher calls me out. It's like, oh, Jason can't even make it through the second day of school, like in front of all these kids. And it felt like the same thing where people making fun of Evan Hansen's cast, making fun of me for missing school. They have no idea why I missed school. I can't talk to them about it because I just don't identify with them. They're all just really, really mean-spirited people. Now I believe that the reason most people are mean-spirited is because bad stuff happened to them, and they don't know how to deal with it. They don't have anybody they can talk to. I don't know. I try to see like the good with people, but that just those similarities are what really resonates with me, especially when you get into the nuts and bolts of the play and what the play is really about, which is Evans has a bad relationship with his mother because she's never around, she's not available, she doesn't understand him, and as he invents this role for himself with the boy's family, the boy who committed suicide, they look at Evan like he's really important because they believe their son had no friends and they themselves didn't really identify with him. So to see Evan in a situation where he identifies with their son, they sort of quasi pseudo whatever adopt him, and it really, really hits home for me because a lot of people, some people know this. I don't want to say a lot of people. Some people know this. Most people, I feel like, don't. When I was 15 or when I was 14, I found out that my mother wasn't my biological mother. I found out I had a biological mother, and not only that, I had a biological sister and brother, and I had another biological sister on the way because my biological mother was pregnant at the time I met her. So I found out I had this whole second half of my family that I never knew about. And of course, me being in my, depressive state when I was younger, I don't feel like I fit in with my family, but of course, I somehow or another believe I fit in with them. And there was a point in time, it was a really, really difficult point of my life, where I believed I wanted to stay with them. As hard as that was to admit for me, it was probably even harder on my mom, because I had a lot of unchecked anger, and I said some really mean things to her, like, I don't fit in here, I don't fit in with this family, my biological mom, my biological siblings, they're my family, I belong with them. It was a really, really, really hard thing to talk about. And, as time goes on, you realize that, like, the bad stuff that you do feels like it happened yesterday. Like, you could put 16, 20 years behind it, or in front of it, and it just feels like it happened, like, it's like right behind you. So that is, well, let me say this. I actually did go to stay with them, and it doesn't of course, work out. I go back home with my mom. I don't want to say all was forgiven, but I think it brought the two of us together. And Evan sort of realizes that his mom might not be around and might not understand him, but it doesn't mean she doesn't love him. And so he goes back with the mom, the truth comes out, and I don't want to say the play has a happy ending, but I think it's got a meaningful ending. And once the truth of that sort of comes out, and you realize that Evan was just someone who felt forgotten and wanted to be with people that saw him. That's kind of what I was like growing up. I always felt like people forgot about me. I'm short, I'm small, I talk funny, people don't see me, and it leads to probably, I'll try to talk about this, very difficult to talk about. So Evan tries to commit suicide, which is why he breaks his arm. I think when I was probably, I want to say like maybe 19 or 20, I can't remember. There was a night in which I attempted to take my own life. And it's not something that's really easy to talk about. It might come off that way just because now it's kind of in the past, but it's like you find I found this medication. I can't remember what it was. Prescribed medication, white cap, orange tube. And I remember sitting there just taking these pills one by one, trying to overdose, thinking every pill had a meaning behind it. It's like 13 reasons why. Like, I don't fit in with my family, first pill. I don't fit in at school, second pill. I don't have anybody that I think really sees me, even though that's not true, but that's what I believe, third pill. It's like every pill I took had like some deeper meaning behind it. And I just remember thinking if I can get to, I can't even remember how many I took. I remember thinking if I can get to this one number, like if I took like 20 or something, if I just get the 20, I know it'll work. I know it'll kill me. So I remember I had like the 20th pill or whatever. I can't remember. I had it, and I was just kind of floating around in my fingertips. And I was like, all these collective reasons for every single pill was going to go into this pill when I took it. And then I had my, oh shoot, I don't want to do this moment. So, of course, I already took it. So I'd like, well, I can't just spit it out. So like, I go find my mom. I tell her what I've done or what I've done, and I said, hey, I don't know what to do. I really, really messed up. I don't want to die. Long story short, made some phone calls. I didn't take enough to kill me. Obviously, I'm still here, so here I am. Go buy my books, link below. So to see Evan Hansen and to see myself and to see the collective of that play and the collective of my own life was really, really, it was like really important, but also really painful. Like obviously I'm okay now, but like when you're younger, sorry, my nose is itchy. Like when I was younger, you don't see it. You know what I mean? You don't see what's right in front of you. You don't see everything you have. You only focus on the stuff that you don't have, and I think that's true as you get older, but maybe you just have a better grasp of it. Like, because everything's great now. And everything was even great back then, I just never saw it. But, you know, and I think Evan sort of realizes that too as he goes through the journey of the play. And I think if you have a means to watch it, I know there's a feature film which I did not watch. If there's a means for you to watch it, I really think you should. Again, after listening to that, and then to say I enjoyed the play, doesn't come off all that great. It's like you watch it once, and you only need to watch it once because one time it resonates. You know what I mean? And it's kind of one of those things where I don't need to watch it again, but it has such a big impact, and I think it opens up, you know, opportunities for people to talk about depression in a manner that's not prejudicial. You know, people can be open about their feelings. Like talking about your feelings when I was a kid isn't the same as when my parents were kids. You know what I mean? Especially for my father, because my father comes from an era where, you know, particularly with men, they weren't quite allowed to show the feelings at all. You know what I mean? So when I was a kid, showing your feelings was still just gradually changing. And of course now, you know, now it's a lot more open and, you know, people can still talk about things, even though the situations they deal with are going to be completely different. You know what I mean? Like when I was a kid, there was no Facebook. Now there's Facebook and YouTube and everything for everybody of any age. You know what I mean? So I think, you know, recognizing that kids today are going to go through different struggles than you doesn't discredit what they're going through. You know what I mean? And I think the more of this video was I just kind of wanted to talk about this. I wanted to talk about the play, why it matters, why I think you should watch it, and why I think talking about these actual issues and talking about your feelings is very beneficial. It's easy for me to say because I had my wife who was just like, she's my wife first, my therapist probably second, and maybe I'm a husband and therapist second. I don't know. I mean, but you know, like if you focus on your support system, even if the support system is only you, like, looking back on it, like, I wish I just loved myself more and focused on that and trying to be a better person and trying to find my own happiness rather than getting caught up on these negative feelings. Because there's thoughts that work for you and there's thoughts that work against you. And Evan struggles with those things in the play, and I struggle with those things in my life, probably to this day, and I will probably do until the end of my days. But I think what this all means is you should watch the play, and hopefully it opens up a line of communication for you and other people by talking about suicide. I wasn't the only one who left that play that night thinking that play had a really big impact. I think everybody who watched it had an impact on them, which is probably a depressing thing to consider, but that's kind of life. So, thank you guys for watching this video, and hopefully you guys can see it, and it means something to you the way it does to me. And until then, keep it real.